Hello, everyone. Welcome to Word Funk. I am Leon Thomas. I am joined by Johnny Maloney and Austin Yorsky. Before we hit recording, Johnny was humming, and it was beautiful. And now we're just here talking, which just seems, I don't know, sort of mundane. But we're going to, try to make it exciting.
Leon, you've got to accept the bad with the good. I mean,
I guess.
Without contrast, the highest highs would look exactly like the mediocrest middles.
That's a good point. That's a good perspective for life and also podcasting. Yeah.
If someone tuned into this and this was their first episode, they'd think the gimmick of this show is that we did it high.
I think a lot of people think that about most of our shows.
Yeah, that has come up a few times.
I seem to recall it appearing in the comment section pretty frequently.
But we normally don't start off like Johnny was singing a song. It sounded like two swans making love to a trumpet. Isn't it great how things are good sometimes, but other times they're bad? It makes you think. Like
it does.
Hey! I'm just trying to make sense of my crazy life right now, Austin. All right? Shit's gone fucking sideways, dude. And it doesn't make sense to me anymore, and I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm trying to take every victory I can.
I like it. I like your perspective. I like your outlook. I'm digging it. I'm into it. I have like things to talk about this week. One is I think everyone will enjoy it, but especially Austin. The other one, I'm like worried about bringing it up because I'm worried about how it will come across if I do, and how we will respond to it. So what I'm gonna do is bring it up. And then, if it doesn't go well, I'll just edit it out. And, that makes the most sense to me.
I think they call that one the classic Leon.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so here goes. So, the comment section of the most recent episode was good, as usual. My favorite comment was, I love the gay guy's voice. That is my favorite comment of the episode. Yeah. And it brought up a lot of questions in my mind. Mm-hmm. Like first of all, who do you mean? And second of all, why? And I don't have any answers to this, and I don't even know how to broach it beyond that.
See, the obvious tact to take this conversation is for us to play a little game to decide who they were referring to. That's what a hack would do. What I'm going to do is say that what this reveals about our show is most listeners think it's one guy monologuing because we all sound like the exact same gay guy.
Is that like it, Austin? Has this whole time, have we really just been one person talking to each other? Just year after year after year?
And that person is also gay.
It's a really impressive, like, Neil Patrick Harris monologue. Like, it reveals like a real depth of character that he can play all three of our roles.
But is this is this an unbalanced thing? Like three aspects of a personality feuding, or is this like just a tightly script, like psychological comedy?
Yeah, that's the question. Is it Freudian or Jungian, right? That's the question.
Yes. Are we doing this on purpose, or is whatever is wrong with us just manifesting as this?
Okay, I would like to believe it's Herman's head more than anything else, and it's just gayer. And
I don't get that reference. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a little before Austin's time, I think.
Oh,
think Fight Club, but funny.
Yeah, it was a television show in I think 1991, and it was about basically the different aspects of someone's personality in their head. One was like love and like sensitivity, and the other one was like the intellect, and the other one was lust, and the other one was fear, and every once in a while,
and the other one was Hank Azaria.
And yeah, he was also a supporting character in the show. But the three like her personality traits would apparently occasionally just sort of like pop up and like decide what Herman would do, as it like in a Greek choir or Greek chorus. I forget the term. But yeah, basically, yeah, the aspects of his personality was the show, and that was the gimmick. This was sort of like at the time, like right when the 80s sitcom got super stale, but they didn't know what else to do.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
now speaking of references that people are too young to get, I was explaining, friend of the show Cam to my new roommate. Longtime listeners will be familiar. He's the living meme, the human personification of
Now, this is your Magic the
wackiness.
Gathering playing roommate, right?
Correct.
Your new card playing buddy?
Yeah, we haven't played yet, but he's aware of it in a way that a person wouldn't be unless they had invested significant time into the hobby. Yes, I was explaining to him, I was like, we have a friend named Cam. He's going to just break into the house in the middle of the night occasionally. Don't panic. He's harmless. Like, he's basically our Kramer. And he just gave me a look, and I was like, you don't know who Kramer is, do you? I was like, oh no, I have become old. Seinfeld is no longer a relevant reference to the youth.
Oh no. Oh yeah, I guess they just it got phased out. I mean, if let's see
How
if
does
they
that
were
make you
born.
feel?
Isn't that really before your time, though, too, Austin, in a way?
I remember it being on like reruns and stuff. So like it wasn't at the height when I came online as a
Okay.
person, but
All right, so, Leon, it's like MASH.
Right. Yeah. I you don't even have to explain any further. Yeah, it is like MASH. I didn't watch it during its original run because I didn't. But of course, it was just in reruns like forever. So
Yeah.
all right, so
Okay.
we're on the same page.
yeah.
So back
So
to
you're on the cusp of that generational jump there, Austin. When you actually get old, like actually when something that you've experienced fondly and kind of like exists in the zeitgeist, you know, like the first time you say Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that, and some kid is like, "What's that?" Then oh.
I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh's still running. They're still making new episodes of that. I just looked it up. Seinfeld went off the air, or the last episode aired in 1998. So I was 7 or 8 years old. So like, I bet I was like when the finale aired and it was like a big deal. I'm sure that someone mentioned it to me. I just didn't retain that specific fact. But like, I was alive.
What do you guys? All right, here's the thing. All right, so I'm right in the middle, generationally speaking, of like reboot culture. All the things that I was super excited about when I was a kid are back. And it's kind of like, it's actually just this kind of like, the needle is tipping because we just had the Power Rangers reboot. And I was a little old for Power Rangers when it came out on TV. I was like, what the hell is this?
That's
I
what
was
I was
exactly
thinking.
the
We're
right
getting to
age.
my generation because Power Rangers was mine.
Yeah. So I'm curious now, what else are we going to get? Austin, what else from your childhood do you think we're going to get reboots of?
So after Power Rangers, I'm trying to go through like all the fads that like I enjoy personally. I think it was Pokemon and Digimon. Pokemon obviously never went away, and Digimon did just get like a new limited run series where the characters from the series that were on when I was little are like older, like my age. Like that's the gimmick of it. Is like, whoa, if they grew up with you. I haven't watched it, but other things I watched back then was like Toonami, which I think they brought back. Recently, that's like the anime block on Cartoon Network. So like, yeah, that came back. What's after that? Because then the thing was like, that's when the internet got big, at least for me. And then like things no longer were bound to like when they were being made. I had the whole of history to explore.
Yeah, the internet has kind of like has kind of made fandom sort of timeless, hasn't it?
Because in a longer sense, 'cause
I have
like, things still hit big, right?
Yeah, I recognize that. It's just like the very first, like the thing that I noticed that the internet removed sort of the barriers of fandom on, first of all, was music. Like I noticed that people's tastes in music were really no longer bound by when music was being produced. But
Well, file sizes probably helped a lot with that too, right? It's a lot easier to just dump a library than it is to get a whole, hard drive full of film.
Yeah, but what I mean is when I was growing up, my very first musical tastes were informed by what my parents had around the house. So, I got exposed to like David Bowie and Roxy Music and like Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel and like a whole bunch of stuff, right? But like that was it. That was like my audio tastes. And after that point in time, it was really just a matter of like you had to know somebody who like had the CD or the tape or something like that, and you had to know them in person because you had to be able to like physically borrow things from them. Right? And all of this stuff was informed by what was playing on the radio, or like what was playing on like the Warped Tour circuit or something like that, or like what was on like Much Music or MTV or something like that. Like it was all passive exposure to media, where it would just trickle down at you from touch points in your life. And like I noticed that as the internet became like more widespread, and music stores and sharing services like iTunes and Napster and Amazon and shit like that, people's tastes in music got like way less dependent on what was trickling down to them. And it could be like you could actively investigate like where your taste in music would lead you over like decades and years and shit like that. People were suddenly being like, oh, well, you really like Mother Mother? Hey, there's all these great rock bands from the 1970s that they draw influence from. And, like it wasn't, you weren't being fed music anymore. And I wonder if the same thing is happening with like television and like movies and shit like that. Because I guess it must be, in a way.
To a larger extent, right? Like in the things that I see online, it's like every time there's a new episode of like Steven Universe or whatever, people are on that, like it's a new phenomenon. But people are also going back and watching older stuff that they just wouldn't have had access to before.
They still got those Firefly memes.
I don't know. I haven't seen any good Firefly memes recently, but I don't think it's going to erase the excitement of new stuff being made. It's just the availability of the old stuff. Just gives you like a more balanced diet.
I'm not suggesting that that the new stuff is going to go away, because new stuff is always exciting. Like when you see something that's like, oh my god, there's nothing like it out there. Tastes like fruit. But that's like, yeah, it's kind of weird to think that the past, the pop culture past, being so readily available, kind of never really goes out of style. I mean, it'll age, but like having access to that pop culture is I guess I feel like it must alter the way that people see the progress of like artistic trends or entertainment trends or something like that.
There is definitely a hot take version of this where like no one's gonna make anything new. We're just gonna recycle Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles forever. But besides that, just being super cynical, it's just like observably not true. Like cool shit's getting made all the time if you know where to find it. So
yeah.
So back to the which one of us is gay.
Sure.
I think that if we examine this from the direction of Johnny, I think you're probably the super ego.
Okay.
Or Leon, you're the super ego. Johnny, you're the ego. I'm the id. Does that sound right? What's your guys' take on this? We're all in someone's head version. I liked that one.
So you're more Austin. You're more primal, or is that what you're trying to say?
It's hard because Johnny feels like the one who would more likely be like bodily primal, because he's like gonna punch your head off.
I'm the sexy, hungry, violent one.
Yeah, I don't know what Freud said.
And I'm thirsty.
It's hard. That's why I'm asking for your guys' input, because I'm not sure. Really, when it comes down to it, I feel like Leon, you are super ego. Probably you don't have a lot of interest in like the id pleasures. You're notably uninterested in sex and violence and just being a gross human.
Yeah, everything is gross. So I'm with you on that.
So I don't know. Is kung fu more id than like football and street fights?
Well, it depends on how it's regulated. I mean, if it's just a fight on the street, I feel like that's pretty primal.
It's not though. This is the thing is I don't practice martial arts to get in fights, and I don't compete or anything like that. It's about self-development. It's inward focused.
Yeah.
I don't know where this conversation's going. I just wanted to go back to it because we didn't actually do any of the low-hanging fruit jokes around us.
No. Well, that's sort of what I meant. Like, I wanted to bring it up because it's such a great comment, and it could create a lot of conversation. But like, all of the jokes are kind of lame. Like, I bet Joey's the gay one, you know, or you know, it's kind of dumb. So I wasn't sure where this conversation would go, but I knew I had to bring it up, and I like where it went because it wasn't dumb. It went in a very different direction.
It conflicts me. This comment confused me because I feel like the gayest one of us, right?
God, I'm so fucking stoked for the rest of this sentence.
And
I am here for this sentence.
And
Yes.
the one of us with the most appreciable voice are not the same person.
Oh shit! Plot twist. Okay.
Well, that's what I was trying. That's what it was going on in my head. I'm like, wait a minute. Well, but although, and that was how my train of thought went, but I didn't really know how to express it.
So that confused me. That threw me for a loop. But then I suppose we can just easily brush it off and say, well, there's no accounting for tastes.
That's true.
You know, perhaps what I see as being, you know, a very pleasing voice to hear is not the meter stick by which other people measure lovely lilting lyrical tones.
It's the liminal space of like our level of YouTube success is interesting because there's the lower one where you get like 0 comments, and then there's the one where like visible channels where you get like infinity, like more than you could ever read, and you just brush them off because you can't even contain in your head the 10,000 people who are just spewing memes and saying just meaningless gibberish garbage.
Yes,
but
the audience becomes a unit.
Yeah, it's just like the howling void. It's just like oh man,
Like
it's
a
just
Stoltian nightmare.
Yeah, I was trying to as I was gonna say like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. It's very bad, but we're right in the middle where there's enough. You get different opinions, and you could like think about each one and contain it and analyze it and assume that everyone has a point. You know? Because if you got this question and you were like, you know, who's big on YouTube right now, like one of those React channels or something, you probably wouldn't have given the comment much thought because it'd be one of a million.
Right.
Kids react to umami flavor.
They're always reacting.
Yeah. My favorite, I've never actually watched one, so I freely admit that, you know, I might be talking out of my butt here. But my favorite title to a React video, which, you know, just pops up on my recommendations for some time, sometimes, was Adults React to Rick and Morty. And I'm like, so basically the target demographic of the show watches Rick and Morty.
I'm an adult, and I react to Rick and Morty very predictably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
It's like a 30-minute video where someone smiles occasionally.
Right. It just sounds so silly. It's like babies react to pacifiers. I'm like, you don't even need a video for that. It was just very strange to me. Someone just wanted that Rick and Morty cash, basically.
Yeah, that's good SEO. You just got to get them. I'm sure there's people reacting to Game of Thrones. I'm sure there's people reacting to fidget spinners. It's fine. Whatever. I haven't actually seen any of them either.
So is the title of this WordFunk going to be WordFunk Reacts to Reactions?
Could be WordFunk reacts to that one comment. And hopefully everyone will think that's mysterious enough to click on it. We'll see.
Which we actually haven't. We concocted elaborate fictions around the question, but never actually answered it because... I don't know.
A real answer would be just so boring.
Yeah. Sorry.
Guys, we have to acknowledge, all right?
Yeah.
We have to acknowledge that human sexuality exists on a sliding scale.
Sliders. Yeah.
So, maybe, therefore, then, we also have to accept that our voices also exist on a sliding scale of pleasure.
It was Johnny. Never mind. It's Johnny. It's fine. All right. Did you guys watch or play or experience anything interesting you'd like to share with the audience this week?
Yeah. I mean, I have another topic, but I feel like I started the first one and like I should probably throw it back.
Nah, you're on a roll. Keep it going, Leon.
All right. I mean,
push it.
As long as you don't mind.
Walk along the razor's edge.
Walk the dinosaur.
Thanks.
Walk
All these
this way.
words. Sure.
Walk like an Egyptian.
I'll wait till you're done.
It's not fun if I can't interrupt you.
Walk the
Okay,
line.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all need to shut up now. Okay.
Reeling it in.
Okay. Don't Google it until I'm done talking.
All right.
Because that'll ruin the fun.
Okay.
Got it.
But have either of you heard of Saint Guinefort?
Not off the top of my head.
No.
That's fine, because I'm going to tell you the story of Saint Guinefort.
Unless
and
it's
why-
that one sex act that I can never remember the name of.
No.
Are you sure?
So, okay. So there is a knight, and the knight has a baby, and
On his own?
well, I mean, I assume that there was a woman. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that this.
I'm
was
just a little
inspired.
surprised at how quickly you wrote the woman out of this story. I mean, a woman
Look.
gave birth, Leon.
It's literally not part of the story. Like, I didn't write this. This was in 13th century France. So anyway, knight.
This is historical then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Knight leaves the baby alone, and then Knight comes back and sees Guinefort covered in blood, and the baby is gone. And of course, the Knight kills Guinefort. But it turns out the baby is fine. The baby is just a little bit further away, and the blood came from a snake because Guinefort protected the baby and killed the snake, and that's why Guinefort had blood on him. And so the knight was very sad about this and realized he killed the wrong person. And so dropped Guinefort, the body of Guinefort, down a well, covered it with stones, and planted trees around it, and sort of became a folk saint. And everyone loved Guinefort. And Guinefort was a dog. So there is a dog who is a saint, and it is wonderful. And I love it so much because it answers the age-old question. Who is a good boy?
Fuck.
It's Saint Guinefort. We answered it. Guinefort is the best dog. But that's not even the best part. You would think it would be. But apparently a cult came about and everyone would try to get their baby blessed near I guess where Guinefort is most holy. But also there was a lot of witchcraft involved in this as well, as you would expect in a cult in the 13th century. The Catholic Church did not ever recognize Guinefort as a saint, and apparently the cult existed from the 13th century till 1930. So it was around for a very, very long time. I found this amazing, and I wanted to share it with all of you. If you want to learn more about Guinefort, it is spelled Guinefort. And that is the story of Saint Guinefort. It's wonderful, and I wanted to share that with you and the world.
Oh, French, why don't you pronounce your T's?
They do sometimes.
Yeah,
just-
it's weird.
You just gotta coax them to by adding
I think
an
if
E afterwards.
I think if a word starts with a T in French, it's definitely there's a T phoneme. I definitely could be wrong about this.
No, there is a T phoneme in French. It's just
Okay.
at the end of a word, if it's just a T, it's soft. Usually, if there's a vowel afterwards, there's like an E or an A or something like that, then it is pronounced
Neat.
as a word ender. But yeah, I mean, the French verb to kill is tuer,
Oh,
or
All right,
it's really shitty pronunciation, but
that's okay.
because
I mean, you didn't even
starts in the back of the throat.
Okay. So that's what I got about this dog. There isn't much more. There's this. I don't have a hot take about Saint Guinefort. I just thought that it would be something that you would enjoy, and now I'm done.
I'm just curious about a knight leaving a baby alone with a dog.
Look, I mean, you at some point you trust your dog, but apparently you don't trust your dog enough to first look around. Because this knight assumed the worst right away. He's like, oh, this dog that I felt completely comfortable leaving alone with my baby. Oh, let's murder it.
Yeah, but what I mean is that most dogs are not they're not great with strangers, right? And babies are a lot of things, but they are first and foremost tiny strangers.
They're not. No. I think the Pisander's story may be
Leon,
missing.
tell me about all the babies that you know, and tell me about all the details that you know about these babies. Okay, like all the intimate details of the characters of these babies, where you're like, well, yes, Michael is very trustworthy.
Dogs. Oh my God, the dog. Listen, I feel like some of this might be a little confused. The dog and the baby were not strangers. The dog was the knight's dog.
I know, but what I'm saying is that babies are strangers. Just because.
Well, I mean, in the sense that they can't introduce
doesn't
themselves.
Mean the dog's like, don't worry, fam, I got this. He'd be like, what the fuck is that?
I don't know. A lot of dogs are really good with children.
And some dogs are not.
Let me look up what kind of dog this was, because the stained glass window I'm looking at isn't really clear. It looks like a greyhound. Not sure.
Why would a knight own a greyhound?
I don't know, because he maybe. Look, let's be clear about this. Most of this is bullshit.
Most saint stories are.
Look. What I'm trying to say is that. Well, no, I mean, saint stories. Yeah, sure, we can sit here and say whether if we don't believe in the supernatural, then yes, we would say that many saint stories are.
No, but even I've talked about how my favorite saint story, the Saint Christopher. I've talked about this on the podcast, haven't I? Mm-hmm. You guys have heard me talk about Saint Christopher on the podcast, right?
Refresh my memory.
The story about dude named Chris walking along a road, comes to a river, is like, whoa, fuck, river. There's a baby, on the side of the river. He's like, right. What's up, baby? Baby's like, wanna cross the river. He's like, I got you, fam. Puts the baby on his shoulder, walks across the river, puts the baby down on the other side, and is like, see ya, baby. Baby's like, thanks, dude. My name's Jesus. Be cool. And just St. Christopher, he got sainted because he left a baby on a fucking riverbank.
Okay, that's fair. But what I'm trying to say is, when we say most saints are bullshit, whether we believe in usually there's a long process of whether or not they're going to canonize this person as saint. There's an investigation. That's actually, I learned recently, where the term devil's advocate even comes from. It's not just a thing for jerks to say to interrupt a conversation. It was literally a position in the church for someone to be the prosecution, so to speak, to try to suss out any potential problems in canonizing someone.
Don't beatify this chump, and I'll tell you why.
Oh my. So that's what I got this episode. I feel like I've said enough. Austin or Johnny, do you have a topic or anecdote, dog related or not, that you would like to share?
I am Austin or Johnny.
Yeah, you're one.
As am I.
That's something we have in common. So
that was a good routine you did right there. I enjoyed it.
I somehow managed to watch the, I guess, sequel series to Wet Hot American Summer on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It took some doing because it's a very difficult series with a lot of jokes that are awkward as fuck, I think is how I would phrase it. And I usually have to pause and take a quick lap around the house to calm down because it gives me massive anxiety. But I concocted a scheme in which I would play Fire Emblem on my phone while watching, and then when it got too much, I would just not look at it, and that helped. All right. Johnny, I think you watched this as well. What did you think before I get into this?
Well, I'm a fan of cringe humor. Mm-hmm. I way preferred the UK Office to the American Office, even though it just gets to certain points in time where you just feel sorry for the joke, and you're just like, oh, you're dying in the most undignified way. So I'm down with awkward situations and that kind of thing. This one in particular, I think I liked 10 Years After better than I liked First Day of Camp.
The prequel. This is such a fucking weird series. First of all,
Yes.
can we say it's a movie, and then there's a prequel Netflix, and then there's a sequel Netflix television series.
Yeah. So I liked this. I thought that this was a better usage of like the setting and the characters and even the tropes than the prequel, because I feel like the prequel didn't really add much. It was just sort of a retreading. But this, by like making everybody kind of like 10 years older and like having baggage and, you know, going on and like doing their new things, there was a little bit more to it. I also liked how it took certain nods to itself as well, like David Hyde Pierce's cameo.
They did a lot of fun things with the casting, because I think the most notable thing about Wet Hot American Summer period is the fact that it was the first film project most of the cast had been involved in, and they all went on to be the most famous people in the world.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
Literally every single person involved is now a billionaire. It's like, for those who don't know, it's like Amy Poehler and fucking Paul Rudd and Bradley Cooper, who didn't make it back for this one, and he gets replaced by the guy from Parks and Rec, and they just all act like it's still the same guy, which is my favorite joke of the whole thing.
I loved it because they had all the pictures in the apartment when they reintroduced the character, and they were all pictures of Bradley Cooper.
It's so good. You can tell that they thought that they were going to get him back until a certain point, and then they didn't, and they're like, fuck it, let's just roll with it. It's a very good joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like star-studded to like absurd levels now. My understanding, and I didn't see it until many years after it came out, but my understanding is that like none of the people involved were anybody. Like, I think Bradley Cooper was like 2 days graduated from college when he got like involved in it. It's bizarre how they all went on to do crazy stuff.
It's a weird kind of lightning strike. Janine Garofalo, Christopher Maloney, although spelled the Italian way, not the Celtic way.
John H. Benjamin.
Yeah, John H. Benjamin. It's a weird nexus of just a crazy amount of talent.
And it's like it's very cringy, but also very like meta. Like, it basically obliterates not just like tropes about camping movies, which is like the basic thing, but also just like story structure and like the way you're supposed to like make a story. That it just doesn't do any of it. It's very weird.
But I enjoyed the sequel. I enjoyed the sequel more than I enjoyed the prequel. I think they made a better meal of it. You know, I think they exploited their reputation as well much more effectively. About the whole, you know, like they had that whole thing about like, oh, you know, like, yeah, we should talk about lunch. Okay, so episode 5? Yeah, episode 5.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Where there are parts of like, oh yeah, remember that conversation we had in episode 2? And it's just like, you can't do that.
I gotta ask too, Austin. I have to ask because 10 years after, like I mentioned this when it first came out because I watched it. I was at my mom's house and I had there was nobody there and nothing to do, and I didn't want to watch House of Cards because my mother watches House of Cards, and I was like ahead of her, so I was like, nah, I'll watch something else. Oh, hey, the new Wet Hot American Summer's out, but I mentioned that it was home to one of my favorite misdirection gags that I think I've ever seen. Can you guess which misdirection gag I'm talking about?
It was either the one about donuts or the one at like the conclusion to the babysitter storyline.
It was the donut joke.
Okay. Those are both very good though.
They're both very good, but I lost my shit on the donut routine for almost 10 minutes straight. Like, I could not pull myself together.
Yeah, it is actually, you know what? I think you kind of talked me into your thing, which is that this is the best use of all of the assets, because the original movie is fun, but I don't know that it's something I'd want to rewatch. Where this one actually feels joke dense in a way that I feel like I could re-enjoy and kind of just get in there and think about all the actual, way they put it together.
Yeah.
And the prequel was just, oh man, it was so cringe. I had a hard time getting through it.
No, I can appreciate that. I feel like I feel like when they went back and did the prequel, there was too much of a necessity to make it more like the movie. You know? Whereas the sequel, 10 years after, I feel like it gave them enough time and enough distance to be able to actually flex what, like, writing and comedy lessons everybody has learned sort of in the meantime. You know, you didn't have to ape the original movie, but you could use it as a launching point to explore other, other things that had become, like, entrenched tropes, I guess, since then,
Yeah, although they go back to the Ronald Reagan well, which is, anyway, that's an entirely different thing that I feel like we talked about Reagan on the Lost episode of Word Funk like 2 weeks ago, and I don't want to repeat myself, but like it's curious how everyone's had him on their mind recently, huh?
Gee, it's almost like they're talking about somebody else.
Through him, yeah. The other Netflix thing worth talking about is The Defenders. Did either of you guys watch it? I bet we got questions. I didn't check.
I'm like, I noped out of
Jessica Jones.
Yeah, and the whole Netflix like mini Avengers stuff. I stopped.
Mini Avengers, that's good.
I did watch it, yes.
Okay, so real quick, if you listen to the show, you like my basic thing about the Netflix Marvel stuff is that like it has moments of brilliance, but often the choreography is bad and too dark, and the Hand is the most boring villain in the history of fiction, and also Danny Rand is kind of a wiener. So you can imagine my shock and surprise when the series opens up with a Danny Rand fight in the pitch darkness where you can't see what the hell is going on as he fights the Hand. It literally starts with like a best of reel of all the things I hate about the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Yeah, it did not start strong.
Almost like, hey, you remember all that stuff you hate? Here it is. But
I
feel
like
better.
I feel like they were trying to like, save face at the very beginning. Like they were like, no, we can make this stuff cool, guys. Watch.
There is a little bit of self-awareness because early on, first of all, Danny Rand gets his ass kicked like 6 times. And he spends like half the series tied up. And also the best conversation of the whole thing is when Luke Cage sits him down and is like, shut the fuck up, rich kid. You're an asshole and you're selfish. No one likes you. Check your privilege. He actually uses the word privilege, which I can't believe they did considering how loaded it is. So it feels like someone on the writing staff also watched Iron Fist, which is good. But my ultimate takeaway from Defenders is that it was only 8 episodes, but it felt like they spent all of it dancing around the thing we came there to watch, which was these 4 people teaming up like they barely do, and they'd never like each other. It's kind of a bad feel a lot, and it's just it's all about the Hand. Who gives a fuck? They suck. They're the worst.
I feel like the fight choreography was actually definitely better than it was in Iron Fist.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 2 fights in particular. My favorite one's the one in the boardroom set to run the jewels. Was actually pretty dang good, but it's not enough to save it for me. I don't think it's as bad as Iron Fist, and I think it's like basically on the level of Luke Cage, which is like fine. The leads are charismatic for the most part. I really like the guy who plays Daredevil. I really like the lady who plays Jessica Jones. I like Luke Cage, and I like spending time with them. But everything around that is a total drag.
Yeah, I gotta say, I actually appreciated the fact that they made it shorter.
Yeah, there's no filler.
Well, but that has been a problem since Luke Cage, it seems. Both Luke Cage and Iron Fist suffered with these really, really terrible, like, late game acts. Where it's like you reach this kind of like point and you're like, oh my god, there's 5 episodes left. What the fuck?
Yeah, Iron Fist is like half about finance. Like, I don't even remember what any of those plot threads actually amounted to, but a lot of it is just like the company is doing business stuff. Like, who gives a shit? But yeah, I guess it was mercifully short, which is not a great recommendation for a show. But what did you think? And this is, I think, ultimately the thing I will remember about the show, like when they're on season 4 or whatever, is look, what did you think about Sigourney Weaver as the villain? Because that for me was the biggest question mark going in, and I don't have strong feelings coming out.
I you know, she's a better actress than the material they gave her. I got to be honest. I feel like she was really underused. There was like the characters, you know, talk with reverence about her when you finally start to like understand what her deal is.
Yeah,
you know,
it feels like she's cameoing from another series in which she was the star.
it really does. That is such a great way to put it, because it just sort of feels like we should already know so much about this character that, you know, whenever she shows up, she doesn't have to explain herself. She doesn't actually have to have any gravitas. It's like everybody just kind of treats her like she does.
Yeah, it'd be like if Madame Gao had never shown up until now.
You know, and so it was just sort of like, and I mean, you know, I guess when you cast Sigourney Weaver in something, there's, you know, even the best actors carry their names with them into roles. You know, Daniel Day-Lewis is
Yep.
an absolute force to be reckoned with. Whether you're watching him in Gangs of New York, There Will Be Blood, or My Left Foot, you know. But it's every time you see him, it's always going to be Daniel Day-Lewis as, you know, like they don't come fresh. They come with clout, and so like it seemed to me that seeing Sigourney Weaver in this role, they were banking so much on Sigourney Weaver being Sigourney Weaver that they didn't give her enough to work with.
I think she's kind of a red herring, honestly, because I don't know if this is a spoiler, but there's a real villain and it's a fucking boring person we've already met. And I think that they thought people would be disappointed if we knew that going in, and I would have been. They were right. But
yeah, but think about it this way, right? Season 2 of Daredevil, you could argue that the Punisher is the red herring, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
But he fucking steals the show.
Yeah, he owns. The Punisher owned, and then it got bad. And this one, Sigourney is fine, and then it gets bad.
Yeah. So that's like, you know, you could, like, even though it's sort of like, oh, okay, and then we have this throwaway villain or whatever, you know, you can still give them something, right?
Well,
you know,
like they did with Cottonmouth, who was fucking dope, and then isn't the villain of Luke Cage. Kind of spoilers?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I think about like what a strong performance Vincent D'Onofrio put in as the Kingpin.
Yeah,
even
and Tenet.
Even though he wasn't like, you know, neither Tennant or D'Onofrio were bait and switch villains, right? Like they were obviously the core of the piece.
Which is what works in the format. Do that again.
I know! You know, if you're gonna have a villain, if you're gonna present like a strong, powerful character on screen, do something!
Yeah, I don't think they have faith that anyone else can carry the roles like Tenet and D'Onofrio did, which is they have to get over that, because if they keep doing this thing where it's like, hey, this is a pretty cool character. Anyway, they're gone. Now it's ninja time. I don't know how much longer I can do this.
Yeah, I really hope that the Hand doesn't stick around.
Yeah, They gesture towards closing that storyline at the end, but they leave themselves room to continue it.
I know. And I really would have liked a much more definitive, like, hey, yeah, we dealt with the Hand. Because if they come back next season, then they're like, hey, guys, it's Gorgon! I'll be like, no.
I missed this. I was too young / not alive. I know that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle villain, the Foot, is a joke about the Hand. Is that just because the Hand is a goofy name, or did back then even people realize they were a shit villain who needed to be mocked?
Probably both.
Okay. I'm done talking about stuff that Leon hates. Leon, you can come back. We missed you.
I'm here. I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
I only left briefly to throw something in the trash can.
Nice.
That's about it. Yeah. I don't have any other big topics this week. At least I don't think so. I'm really into falafel now, but I don't think I can turn that into a topic.
I actually heard, because you were talking about falafel on social media, and I was like, all my friends are into this hot new thing. Falafel? Cool.
Yeah, it's good. That's it.
We're so lame.
I don't have anything. I don't have a deep dive set on falafel. It just tastes good. That's it for me. I'm real sorry. I had a pretty good week. I got a lot of work done, but like it's just stuff for the movie. It progresses. I don't have anything new to say.
The sequel to It Follows. It progresses.
It's going on. It's still set for my release window of winter, and that's it. That's what I got. I do want to say one other thing. I do have an idea for a future feature-length Renegade Cut episode / movie called "All Your Kubrick Theories Are Wrong," because I just can't stop getting these comments on Kubrick videos, and sometimes they say things that are bizarre, and it gets me like down a rabbit hole of learning more about conspiracy theorists. Someone left a comment on my Eyes Wide Shut video, and it was I apologize for breaking my I'm not gonna dunk on commenters thing, but this person is not a commenter on my videos. This person appeared for this one event and is gone now. This person said something like, "Oh, why'd you spend all this time talking about gender roles when the movie is really about Kubrick exposing the satanic elite?" And I can't remember exactly how I responded. It was something along the lines of, "No, it's really not. You need to not take your movie reviews from Rob Ager and conspiracy theorists, because that's not real criticism of the movie. That's conspiracy nonsense." And then they instead of taking what I'm trying to say to heart, they responded with basically not accepting that I'm entering into this in good faith, like I'm trying to help. They're saying,
"Whoa, Leon, are you just a tool of the man?"
That's literally what they said.
Because I would be so heartbroken if that were the case.
They
thought we were buds.
They said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're just saying that because you want me to watch more of your videos. That's what you're saying." And I'm like, no, you don't understand. What you're saying is factually not true.
No, you don't understand. You're an idiot. I don't want you anywhere near my videos.
No, that's not even what I was saying at first. I was trying to say no, you're wrong, and you need to understand, and you need to really just do a little bit of research, and then you'll realize what you're saying is not accurate. The Satanists don't rule the world. The Illuminati is not real, and Kubrick did not fake the moon landing. All you got to do is Google, and you'll find things that debunk this. And then someone said something that I wasn't expecting. He or she, I don't know, said, "Yeah, well, everyone, you're wrong, and you know that you're wrong because Hillary Clinton sacrificed a chicken to Satan, and that proves it. There's an email." And I'm like, what? So I Googled it, what this person was talking about, and the first thing that pops up was the Snopes article refuting this. Apparently, she's received an email from someone. Someone does this thing called spiritual cooking. It's just a meal. She was invited to dinner. It was not a big deal. But someone twisted this and said, "I bet she's trying to sacrifice a chicken," and that was the thing that spread. It's super not true. It's easily disproved. But people don't. That's the problem, though. When people believe in a conspiracy theory, and you just show them the thing that very succinctly debunks it, they think that's the fake news.
It's also just not what Satanists do. Animal sacrifice is what God demands in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Satanists don't. It's the opposite. It's the literal. I don't. Oh man.
No, they like to eat the animal themselves. So it's cook a nice meal, just chill out.
There are actual Satanist organizations. They have social media accounts. You can just ask them what they think about Kubrick. They'll tell you. They're just normal people. They have Xbox Live accounts and they fuck. It's not a mystery. What are you talking about? I like people like the comforting lie that the people in charge are like in league with the devil because it like explains things in an exciting way when the real story is just that like rich people do it because they have power and money, which isn't like as exciting.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's one aspect of it, but the thing that's just concerning to me is like sort of on like the day-to-day basis of people believing something that's definitely not true, easily disproved, but disbelieving the thing that disproves it. Like I saw someone basically there's this picture running around Twitter that fascists like to spread to say that the people who are anti-fascists are the real fascists, and it's basically a photoshopped picture of someone with the Antifa logo or whatever you call it on his back, like hitting someone. It's not. It's like photoshopped. Like the original picture can be found and shown, and like so when someone posts that, I saw someone say, "No, this is actually fake, and here's the original picture, and here's why that's actually not true." I mean, we can have a debate on whether or not violence is justified in the political realm, but like this picture is not true, so we need to get that out of the way. And the person responded, "Nah, it's true. It was all over the news." And it's like, no, like click on the link. It'll like prove this, like in sort of like a matter of fact kind of way, like very simply. And like, no, I heard it. And that was like an actual conversation that happened.
I'm sure, but from their perspective, it looks the same because you're like, oh, just click on the link. And they think if you just click on their link, it'll prove their thing. Like, I don't know that, like, I understand that, like, you could just prove with timestamps of the old or unaltered photo. There's the same thing with every crowd size that people want to dispute and use the wrong photos for. Like, it's a thing. But from their perspective, if you just click their link, you would agree. You know?
Yeah, someone told me I need to read more Alex Jones the other day.
Yeah.
And I just could not deal. I'm going to start saving these comments and taking screen caps of them for research into this movie that I'll probably never get around to making because I'm so busy on this one and other projects.
You know what's a shame is that I think Alex Jones appeals to not a bad instinct in people, which is the like fight against the man thing. That's like his gimmick, where it comes from, is that like there's powerful organizations who are fucking over the little guy. I have the straight dope. But then he goes on his show and is like, I smelled Obama. He smelled like brimstone. And like, if your political position requires you to tell lies, you should reevaluate your thing because you're lying, right? Like that's just, I feel like I wouldn't be able to do my job even if I thought 99% of the things I was saying were true. If I knew I had to go up there and just tell lies. And that's what I like. I'm not going to say like that's what bugs me about Alex Jones. Obviously, he spreads a lot of harmful, heinous shit, but I don't think that the idea, I think that it appeals to people for a reason, is because there are powerful interests that control like parts of our lives. And that is just like, companies who use their money to lobby so that Flint, Michigan still has dirty water for 3 years, right?
Yeah,
like that's
man,
fucked up.
Figure. The truth is like just as like probably even more fucked up than what somebody would just like invent and imagine.
But no one would watch a show where you basically read like the change log for bills that are going to move money around. It's more exciting if the devil is turning the frogs gay. Like that's the exciting thing that gets people to watch your stupid show.
Yeah, there's nothing sexy about the American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC. It's just deeply unpleasant and bad, but it's hard to make it exciting.
And that's why we all watch When Teens React, because that's exciting.
Well, we brought it around.
Good for you, Austin. Good for you.
Yeah.
I guess it's just, I mean, we're all kind of pulling at the same thing here, which is like the weird intersection between entertainment and news. And like, as they increasingly become the same thing. And it's like, obviously we focus on the right wing stuff here because they're very mockable and almost always lying. Like there was a viral thing that literally happened a couple hours ago as of this recording, where the House GOP tweeted a link to their website in which they compared our tax system to The Legend of Zelda, saying the last major tax legislation was passed in the year Nintendo was founded, 1986.
What? They could not have. That could not be real.
No, Nintendo was founded in the late 1800s, so missed it by about 100 years. Also, everything else in that that article, I don't know if it was a full article, I read like part of it that was on their website, it's just factually false. Like they didn't know when Nintendo was founded. They didn't know whether or not, the first Zelda was the best selling. It's not. Like everything was just factually wrong. And like obviously there's some confirmation bias because like I went in thinking they're stupid liars and like, oh look, it proves that they're stupid liars. But it's just like you don't need to. They could just say, here's the reason we think the tax system is busted. Here are our facts that support our position. I would disagree with them, but they could just make a good faith argument for their thing. They don't have to lie. Why is that your starting position? That's what bugs me, I guess. That's my fun what grinds my gear segment for the week.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I know it's not popular to talk shit about the GOP on here. That's the other thing.
You're a real rebel, Austin.
Yeah. Someone's got to say the thing we're all thinking. So we have like 5 minutes before question starts, which leads me to another thing. I swear it's related. It's not going to sound related at the start. I saw the McDonald's movie, The Founder, with Michael Keaton.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I watched that the other week.
At first I thought like there was a movie about Grimace. And I just didn't see it. Like I genuinely blanked that there was a Michael Keaton movie about that. But how would you think of it?
So it's weird because when I first heard of it, I was like, damn, Michael Keaton's on fire right now. He's crushing all these big profile movies. He's winning all kinds of awards. I bet this is going to be a fucking banger. And then it kind of came and went without any fanfare. And I checked the Metacritic. It has like a 60 or something. Like, people thought it was like mediocre at best. And I watched it and I thought it was pretty good. Like, his performance is good. But what's going on like in the subtext, I think is super interesting. It's like almost like a very Renegade Cut movie because it feels like kind of this story about the struggle between the two kinds of capitalism. Like the actual McDonald's brothers are like the best instincts of capitalism, where they like see a need and they fulfill it, and they're very much about creativity and efficiency and just trying to do something that is fulfilling.
Innovation.
Yeah, and it like I talk a lot of smack about capitalism on here, but it's also a very valuable thing, and we've gotten a lot out of it. Like, who knows if we would be doing a show over the internet with podcasts, right? Like, who knows if any of this technology would exist if not for capitalism? I fully admit that. But then like Ray Kroc comes in and he's like the worst impulses, where it's not enough to have money. He needs all the money. It's not enough to be successful. He has to crush everyone else. It's not enough to win. Everyone else has to lose. And that's where we are. That's like late stage capitalism, because as wealth concentrates at the highest ends, it naturally has to go away from the bottom, right? That's just the math on that. And he is that incarnate. And you could talk about this movie being like, well, it doesn't have a satisfying conclusion. It just kind of piddles out and it leaves out a bunch of stuff. Like, Ray Kroc was friends with Disney and he lied about his age to get into World War I, and none of that's in there. And yeah, that's all fair. But I don't think it's playing in the same biopic space as like Walk the Line or Ray. It's not like a sexy movie about a tortured genius and like, his trials and tribulations as he changed the world. It's about like a guy who doesn't think he's the villain, who thinks like making money is good in and of itself and hurts people along the way and thinks that's fine because that's business. And that's a very American horror story.
Yeah. A very frightening person once said, I must possess all or I will possess nothing. And that person was Skeletor from the He-Man movie from the 80s.
You're talking about the live-action He-Man movie, right? Yeah. With my boy Dolph?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a good line.
He specifically draws like parallels between like his beliefs and America. He says like, do it for your country, and like America is crosses and flags and McDonald's arches. He does like a lot of that kind of posturing, and it also reminds me of Nightcrawler, which is also very similar. It's like, listen, you're supposed to make money. That's the thing I was taught. You have to make money. I'm going to do that. If you get in my way, it's your fault. I'm gonna fuck you. Like, you should have known better. And it's like chilling, and it's not. It doesn't feel like the other biopics out there. I mean, I think maybe that's why people were disappointed. Johnny, thoughts? I talked for a while there.
I thought it was great. I thought it was a wonderful movie. And this is the thing is I did not necessarily see it as a biopic, because it wasn't about Kroc's life. It wasn't. It was very deliberately about how Kroc hijacked the McDonald's franchise.
It starts when he's like 50, it ends when he's like 55. It does not cover barely any of his really interesting life. He bought a baseball team. He did all kinds of crazy shit. None of it's in there.
It's not about him, It's about what he did and why he did it. And it's like that. If that's not clear to you by the time that you get to that scene in the bathroom at the end where he's explaining why he couldn't just take the idea and make his own restaurant, but why he had to take the name.
Yeah, the whole movie builds to a scene where it's like, why are you a dick? And he's like, marketing.
Yeah, it's like
the prestige.
This whole scene where he just basically goes, no. All right, so get this, okay? If I did my own thing, it would have been fucked. It had to be yours. I wanted your thing.
Yeah.
And if it's not clear to you by that point in time that you're not watching a movie about Ray Kroc, but about, Ray Kroc in, like you said, late-stage capitalism, I can't help you. Mm-hmm. It's all there. The subtext is all there.
Yeah, and there's also just, the text, especially in modern times. I don't know if this is going to be ever really appreciated about this film, but when so much of it comes down to names and name brand and name recognition, and a lot of that, if we want to really look deep into our national heart, is what got us to where we are in 2017. If the person who is in the White House now was named, Johnson, and he just came from the fucking Johnson family of nowhere, he wouldn't be there, right? Branding is a real thing, an inexplicably powerful force in human psychology for whatever reason, and Ray Kroc understands that in a Nightcrawler sense.
Yeah, and he's not wrong.
You guys keep saying biopic instead of biopic, and it's giving me a rash.
I know that people say it the other way, and this isn't the academia thing where I fucked up. This is a conscious choice. I have decided to die on the biopic hill.
Yeah, it's definitely not. Do you want to do questions now?
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at my notes here. I also watched a documentary on Roger Stone, which I shouldn't have. That was depressing as fuck. What a scum.
Is that Get Me, Roger Stone?
Yeah.
All right.
It's just, he's a guy who worked for Nixon, and he basically learned from Watergate that facts don't matter and people don't care. And he has basically spent his entire life up until, working on the Trump campaign, just lying deliberately and getting away with it and being super successful because nothing matters. And marketing is the only thing that matters, getting your name out there and making sure people are talking about you. And the film comes dangerously close to endorsing him at some points, where they're like, it works, what do you want from us? And it's like, he should be in jail. This isn't fun. This movie makes me feel bad. All of this is terrible.
Yeah. I watched a documentary called 13th about the prison industrial complex. It was also sad, but it was also made by a good person. And it was very clear about what it was trying to convey and did not have any bad ideas. We do get a brief glimpse into the politics of Grover Norquist, but immediately after he's done talking about how there's no racism or something, we cut to a black man saying, "Sure, Grover," and then he just schools. It's good.
Or as we like to call him on this show, Grover Nyquist. We've renamed him.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to do questions.
Grover Bird Squish.
Cyber Marmot, which is a good name for a cow. I know it's a random web person who runs the forums for Dice Funk and Wordfunk, asks, do you have a personal hero or someone you look up to? Can be fictional as well, in parentheses. And I don't know if this question was inspired by anything in particular, but it reminds me, we all got righteously milkshake ducked this week by good old Joss Whedon.
We did?
Oh yeah,
a little.
Are you?
I'm not aware. How did?
No, there wasn't anything. The original idea behind Milkshake Duck was that you find out someone is a racist, but no, it just turns out
it's just somebody you like turns out to be bad.
Right. I know.
I
didn't hear Joss Whedon. Somebody, please.
It's evolved to that. Yeah, basically, Joss Whedon may have cheated on his wife.
No, definitely
like
did admit it and apologized to it about it.
Yeah, like a bunch. Which like I guess hurts his cred as like a loud and proud feminist. I mean, it does. It definitely does.
It's not just that he was not faithful. It was like in his letter that his ex-wife published. He talked about how like he felt like a god amongst men, and like he could just like have any woman he wanted, and he like couldn't handle the power, and he felt bad about it. It was like it came off of like a really creepy like nice guy thing. He's like, I'm trying to be good, but my dick makes me feel bad.
Okay. Yeah.
It made him look like a total fucking douche nozzle.
Yeah.
TLDR.
All right.
Okay. So like the question: do you guys have a hero? Because I'm struggling with this one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my milkshake duck definitely. I don't know if I ever told this story. Was Chicago Bears coach Mike Ditka, who seemed like a good stand-up guy. Gave a lot of money to charities. Like just the kind of person you grow up in the South looking up to, like football heroes. Totally normal. And then he just started saying a bunch of whack shit about black people.
Oh.
He was just like. Yeah. It's just doing bad, like I think, especially around the the Trayvon Martin stuff and the Ferguson stuff, and he just kept saying whack shit, and I was just like, "What the fuck, old man? It's bad."
I'm sorry. I feel the same way about German philosopher Immanuel Kant.
Yeah, which we also always grow up looking up to in the South.
Yeah. 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant. I liked a lot of what he wrote. So I was like, yeah, this is probably my philosopher. He basically secularized the golden rule, which is, I guess, a very, like, I'm streamlining, like, his ideas about ethics, like, to a, like, an embarrassing degree. It's way more complicated than that, obviously. But I liked some of the things he had to say. He was also just, like, a racist. And yeah, I realized that like for the time, yeah, sure. But I guess when you put pen to paper with your racism, it kind of like stains a little bit. I'm sort of the mind, and I apologize if this sounds like very like childishly rebellious, like, ooh, don't have heroes, dude. But like I'm sort of like leaning to that sort of thing. Like it's okay to like be inspired by people, but if you devote a lot of what you think about yourself as it relates to one person, if that person disappoints you in a profound way, it can really fuck with you. I mean, you can like, let me put it this way. You can like a thing that someone said or did, but if you just like the person in their totality, you will inevitably come upon something that is troubling. Like Joss Whedon, he did apparently some shitty things. I bet he's done a lot of good things too. He's probably just like a guy who has done, who like most people, who has done some really shitty things and some really good things and a lot of stuff in between. I mean, I don't want to dismiss some of the, what we were talking about earlier, but when I heard about the story, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty douchey, like most people, and that's kind of where I went with it. But if you liked his work, or you liked some of the things he said about feminism or about leftist causes, that's cool. But then you find out he also has this other side to him, like most people, sadly. Then it's just really disappointing.
Yeah,
I
mean, with that. There's also the element of he's like a super powerful rich guy, which I feel like it basically by default makes you a bad human being. like I know there's like the narrative about the toxic white male feminist allies, and that's totally real. But I feel like there's also just the privilege element that like he was kind of like, once you get to that, like, you're kind of a lost cause in a lot of ways because you're insulated from the actual. Anyway, sorry, Joss Whedon.
Yeah,
I don't want to go down that. Johnny.
Yeah.
I just want to check here. Are we talking about heroes like that have collapsed here? Like,
No.
fallen heroes? Because I didn't hear that in the question.
No, the question is just do you have a personal hero, or whether they are real or fictional? Yeah,
No,
we went into
that's
our
where I
whole
took it,
milkshake
yeah.
duck thing. Yeah, that was our fault. The question is very pure.
That's like the reason I don't is because I've been burned before, right?
Yeah, man. Fucking Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Okay, fair. I've only seen some of that stuff, but he seems cool.
I feel like I don't have to qualify that. I feel like that stands for itself right there.
I was also I don't have. I'm trying to think of a good one to answer the question, and I can't because the first thing that came to mind is I've been reading some Aleister Crowley recently, and he has a lot of like cool, interesting ideas, especially for the time. And then he's just like, yeah, you should love people, and we should be nonconformist and free. It's a shame that the other races are inferior, but you should love them too. And I'm like, dude, you were so close. You almost got it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also, Sufjan Stevens is a good boy.
Oh, I hope so. He seems like he needs like some support. He's so sad all the time.
Mm-hmm. I like him.
Here we go. Saritha asks, were any of you able to safely view the eclipse?
I did not bother.
Cool.
I was.
I'm sorry. I that sounds kind of shitty. Like, so what? An eclipse. I don't mean that in like a deeply dismissive way. I just was not personally interested. So that's all.
I was abed with fever.
Oh.
Cool.
No, we talked a couple of weeks. I can't remember if this was on the legendary Missing podcast where we talked about smoke that was happening in Vancouver, like the awful the wildfire smoke that was just hanging out. I feel like the audience heard it. I want to say that, but all last week I was basically in the process of getting that out of my system. And it manifested as me fighting like a terrible throat infection that kind of came on and hit me on Sunday. So I woke up like Monday morning and I was feverish and my throat hurt and everything was bad. I was like, I must go back to sleep. And it was only when I awoke at like 2 p.m. that afternoon, I was like, oh yeah, there was an eclipse today. Fuck it. That's my story.
Yeah, I was editing audio, I think. Sorry, I didn't really have any interest in it.
We're very worldly boys here.
Was it? Did it happen Tuesday? Am I wrong?
No, it was
about
Monday.
That? Monday. Okay, I was writing. Yeah, that was what I said.
Yeah. So here's another timely question from Martin, who asks, thoughts on Crunch? Are you guys aware of this viral, I must have said video, article that went around today about Crunch in the video game industry?
No, but if it's in the video game industry, I definitely did not read it.
I mean, if you're talking about like development crunch time, it doesn't really like that thing has been around forever, and it's been like the subject of a class action lawsuit against Electronic Arts.
Yeah.
It's fucking awful. It is like the people in the video game industry are so fucking mistreated.
Well, that's the predominant narrative, which is why the article that came out today was so controversial. Briefly, Polygon published something today. It's actually an excerpt from a book, so there was like some context missing. But the short version is it was written by a developer talking about how they really liked Crunch. And it was like, it was focusing for them, and everyone was like giving 110%, and they're so passionate, and people were rightly furious. I think. If you know anything about my thoughts on labor, I think mandatory unpaid overtime.
Gee,
that
sounds kind of, exploitative.
Just immoral on a basic level. But everyone, of course, came out in full force to this author to fuck themselves. And they said on Twitter that basically not only is it an excerpt from a book, which has the wider context of showing the kind of bad effects of it, like how it does affect your mental health and physical health and relationships.
Your relationship with your family, and whether or not you get any sleep and fight off disease and make yourself. Sorry, go on.
No, so they also basically said that like the point of the article is that it is an unhealthy viewpoint. Basically, like, unreliable narrator, I guess, is the defense that went up of this article. And so neither of you have read it, so it's not like a lot of ground to talk about there, because you would need to be kind of intimately familiar with the prose to make a judgment on that. But do you guys think there is any defense of this, or would you be mad about someone trying to frame it in this way? Or, like, my gut reaction was, this is indefensible, and then I was like, well, maybe if I read the book, I don't know. Is that naive?
No, I think context is absolutely important. Like, I'm absolutely willing to give somebody the benefit of the doubt that it's difficult to make an authoritative call without having exposure to the complete work, to the complete presentation. You know, it's imperative to the way that some people communicate. You know, some people communicate on a moment-by-moment basis where you can follow sentence to sentence, and other people, like, the macro view of the statement is way more important. So with that in mind, I think, yeah, I mean, if you read the entire book and you say, I read the entire book, and your position is indefensible, then it's like, at least you're speaking from a point of authority on the subject.
Do you think Polygon should have, like, been more clear about their disclosure of that? Or do you think that, like, takes away from the impact of the article to be like, don't take this person at their word. Anyway, here's their article.
No, I think disclosure is crucially important, especially when you're in journalism. And I mean, the thing is that Polygon particularly is not, I don't think, most famously known for their, like, scathing op-ed pieces.
God, they went through a bunch of stuff in the last couple of weeks. We didn't talk about it, but one of their people got fired for sexual harassment. That was a huge thing.
Did they let him go? Because I did not hear whether or not they showed him the door.
He was suspended pending investigation, and they investigated, and then he was let go. So,
all right, then.
Oh, and then he issued an apology, so it's not really ambiguous whether or not it happened. Yikes. So it's going to be hard.
Probably stop following that guy on Twitter.
And probably stop recommending Carboys.
Mm-hmm.
Which I did genuinely enjoy and is now ruined forever.
I know, it's sad.
I like Nestle's Crunch.
I love you, Leon.
Yeah, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Raisin Bran Crunch. So
my
that's
thought
what I wanted
is
to add.
We should replace all manual labor with robots and go into a post-labor economy. Next question. Let's see. Jennifer Lynn Crone asks, Leon, are there any films you like that you wouldn't do on Renegade Cut? So
yeah,
faves.
tons. Yeah, tons. I mean, the short answer to that is anything that's just cool and I enjoy it, but I don't have anything like meaningful or philosophical or political to say about it. You can dig and find like something significant to say. Like someone said, "Hey Leon, I'm going to give you this money. Can you talk about Predator 2?" And I was like, I bet I can find something in there because I like Predator 2, and I bet there's something in there about like, you know, sort of like that urban dystopia stuff. You know, that it was like just after the Reagan era that maybe I could say something about it, and I ended up doing that. But usually with a Predator 2, there just isn't enough. Like I'm trying to think of like a good movie that I would definitely not have anything cool to say about it. And then the first thing I thought of was John Wick, and then I realized that I probably do, and it's mostly about how we fetishize guns. But
Movies with Mikey did a really great video on John Wick and its mythology, basically like how it creates the world of assassins as a modern day pantheon. It's really dope. You should watch it.
Neat. But yeah, like the answer to that is like tons of movies that I like, but I just don't have anything significant to talk about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got a bunch of questions we've answered before, and I don't know if that's because we have a lot of new listeners or if people just don't have anything they think we are qualified to talk about anymore, which is fun. There has to be a point eventually where we've told all our good stories, which is sad.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to make new stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have new experiences.
Cosmignon, the Ink Master General, asks, though, Dice Funk has 100 episodes now. How does that feel for you? I think it's very cool. Cool emoji. I don't know how you pronounce cool emoji, so I just said it.
Cool.
It is cool. Here's my thought about Dice Funk, separate from the other projects I've been involved in, is that I think the more episodes it gets, the more intimidating it is for new listeners. Like this show, Word Funk, it could have 10 episodes or 10,000, and it's basically the same. They're all interchangeable. With Dice Funk, if I'm like, oh, you should listen to my cool story podcast, it has 100 hours of content. That is terrifying. I have deliberately not watched things because I'm like, 3 seasons, that's too much to commit to. So that now that my thing has got that long, it is exciting. I'm proud of it. It's a good show. We do a lot of good work. It's also reaching a point where it's gonna get like a reputation for being dense, which is a new phase for it that I'm concerned about. That's kind of where I'm at. So like I do think it's a really great show we do. I also think that we're gonna have to like figure out a way to sell it to people besides be like, it's funny and gay. It's like we also need to start saying you can start in the newest season, don't worry about the old stuff or something.
Just listen to the Leon seasons and then stop.
Oh, Leon.
I joke.
Did you see that? God, the fan art for season 2 still comes in. There was some phenomenal stuff recently that was for season 2 that I want to pull up to show you if you haven't seen it. Or at least read this person's name, because it's in Russian. I don't know how to pronounce that. The at is at Anemro. You can look at it. I'll send it to you, Leon, later. But it's okay. There's a violet with her sword that is just chef kiss that I thought you would appreciate.
Okie dokie.
There's a lot of people talking about something called butt funk. Is that an inside joke in our community that I'm not aware of?
I don't know.
Okay. People are always asking like if Johnny's gonna do food funk or something. There's a bunch of stuff going on here that's above my head too.
Okay, like a different podcast, but just about food.
Yeah, for Johnny.
Probably not.
Here's another one for Leon. Cyretha asks, "What are your reactions to SummerSlam and its fallout this week?"
Ooh,
it doesn't say parentheses question. Wrestling, but I'm adding it.
Yeah. SummerSlam. It was a very up and down show. I was deeply disappointed by some of the booking decisions. Which is, they say like you're never, a wrestling fan is never happy unless he's complaining about wrestling. And so here goes. I really hated how they booked the Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jinder Mahal match, because it just ends the way all of Mahal's matches end. Like his 2 bad guy friends jump into the middle of the ring and like hurt or distract the good guy, and then he wins. And that would be fine if like the matches leading up to that obvious finish were like really good. But Jinder Mahal is not a very good wrestler. He does not create entertaining, exciting matches. He is a very veiny person, but he is not athletic in a way that is exciting. And Nakamura lost and got pinned. And if it ends with if this feud ends with Nakamura like winning the rematch and becoming WWE champion, I'll be like, well, at least the road sucked, but at least the ending was good. But I feel like that's not going to happen. So it's just going to be more and more disappointing as it goes on. This might be like a fun side note. The guy that they were going to make the new main eventer, his name is Baron Corbin. He's not very good, but he's tall, and that means a lot for Vince McMahon. He got into an argument with a troop on Twitter, and that like torpedoed his push. That means like you can't. WWE has a very close relationship with the United States Armed Forces, and because of that, he's like a nobody now. He got squashed by John Cena, who looked like he was not even taking the match seriously. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna wear a cowboy hat during this match too," for no reason, and it just happened.
I know the term "pushed" because that's also in Magic the Gathering. Was when they push something, they want it to seem real good.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what that means.
See?
Good job. I'm glad the Venn diagram overlapped in a meaningful way there. But yeah, like sometimes you watch an event and you see a lot of Rusev, who is another guy who they should be pushing but are not, got squashed in 10 seconds by Randy Orton, and it was embarrassing. And everyone loves Rusev, and it really sucks that they're not gonna do much with him. So those were like the things, like all the people who you thought were going to be big or you wanted to be big ended up not being and got just crushed, and it was not good. Whether they were good guys or bad guys, they were just bad booking decisions made. The main event was really great. So there's that. I guess the fallout is that they some of the people from developmental, meaning guys they signed but weren't ready for Raw or SmackDown, got brought up recently. Or people returned who have been away from the company for a very long time. So that's sort of been like the fallout. Like, oh, there's all these new guys and they switched brands and stuff. So that's exciting, and we'll see how that works out. Those are my thoughts on SummerSlam. It was sort of up and down. I wasn't super happy with it, but there's always more wrestling. There's hours and hours of it every single week. So if you don't like the one show, there's another one tomorrow. So it's not that big of a deal now that I think of it. And that's it.
Good episode, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's put our hands in. Let's bring it in.
Sure.
Word funk on 3. 1, 2, 3. Word funk. You guys didn't play sports, did you? So you don't. Have you guys ever done that? The hand thing?
I saw it on Married with Children.
Cool.
All right. Any thoughts before we go? Any last words?
Any last words? That's ominous.
That always sounds grim.
You guys.
What?
I joined a dating app.
Ooh, nice. That is a thing we should have talked about. That's interesting. I also have almost experience with that. Anything you'd like to report very quickly, or should we save that, or can that be the teaser for next week?
It's weird.
Is your profile pic just your gams?
No. Nah.
That'd be a pretty power move, though.
It would.
It's weird.
You would grab a very select kind of person,
Yes, I imagine you would.